This right here is what keeps me coming back.
All right. What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to another Serious Angler podcast, episode number 158. Here with my good buddy and co-host, Andrew Full. What's going on, man?
Oh, just hanging out, making some decisions on the weekend, and yeah. So
Trying to stay awake.
No, I'm good. So debating if I want to go bass fishing Saturday or if I'm going to do a suicide road trip to the Salmon River and go steelhead fishing.
Why do you call it a suicide road trip? I'm curious.
Because it's a 3.25 hour drive, so I'm going to have to get up at 2 a.m., leave the house by 3 to get there by 6:30, walk 2 to 3 miles into the woods, fish all day, and then drive home.
That sucks.
So they call it a suicide trip. You literally pound Red Bulls to get home.
I'm halfway, dude. I got an open room. Just drop your boat off.
I don't know. But the boat's in Rochester.
Oh, that's right. I'm closer to your boat than you are.
You're closer to my boat than I am.
Oh, man. Well, dude, I had a tough day today. Not a tough day for me, but a tough day.
For your
I'd say a
dad.
tough day physically for me, tough day mentally for my dad. A little hunting story. Unfortunately, my dad shot a buck last night. Nice buck. And had to work all day today. So my brother and I got up early and decided to track it. Tracked it over a mile and then lost it, unfortunately. Couldn't find it. And it was an interesting thing. We found a bed that was in some mud. And I think what happened was it closed up its wound with the mud, which deer are known to do. And after that, there was tracks going everywhere. And we didn't find much of anything, unfortunately.
Was it a big buck?
But it wasn't, it was a nice one. It was mature, which is what mattered. But on the bright side, we got permission from a couple different of our neighbors for permission to hunt. And, we'll come over, we'll chop wood in return. And some good came of it, though. It's not a great feeling.
It's a bittersweet day.
Yeah. It's not a good feeling when you can't recover an animal, but moving on, lessons learned. But today we have a fun episode. We're joined by our good buddy, Mr. Destin DeMarion. We're going to be talking about
fourth time he's been on now.
Let's see. It's at least 2, 3. This will be the third. We'll have to ask him. He might remember.
It's the fourth because he was part of the 100 episode, right?
Yeah, he was in the 100.
And he
obviously had his individual podcast.
And then he hopped on for the big bass blast that we had on Erie. So it's 3. So this will be 4.
Yeah, this will be the 4. You're right.
It's 4.
Sweet. Well, without further ado, let's get him on here to talk about his season and the 2021 season.
The frequent
flyer. What's going on, guys? Bear paws.
You guys after that tournament, you guys just kept doing.
I was like warming up the hands. Gotta get them.
I was dying. He's like, just bring them to my bear paws.
I was so confused why you guys were doing that because you wouldn't put any context to it. You'd just be like bear paws, and I'm sitting there.
It makes it so much funnier, though.
Yeah. I was like, what are they talking about?
He was like, oh, it's a big one, and it jumps. I was like, oh, 7. I was like, I'm gonna get the bear paws ready.
Yeah, dude, you're like sitting in the seat, going like this, getting all pumped. You're like, yeah, bring them. You're like, bring them to me.
Like he's getting ready for a free throw. He's warming up the hands.
I'm not missing them.
You're like, I'm not missing this fish.
Dude, I was almost spot on when that fish jumped too. I was like, oh my god, it's a 7.
Yeah, dude, you were. Like, I was like, oh, it's a 6 for sure. Like, we're gonna win with this. But I was like, oh my gosh, we got that thing in.
We're like, oh, let's just go in. We're done. Like, we're done.
Like, let's take our time getting in. It's pretty rough. So
all equates. Yeah, I remember you guys did that at the weigh, and I looked at Jeff, and I'm like, what are they talking about? And he was like, oh.
Running
I'm
joke.
probably just used to it. Like the stupid random stuff that we all say.
I'm all set.
I can't wait for the Jeff Live video.
Jeff Live. Yeah, dude. I wish I had some time to work on that. It is funny.
Oh, this is cool.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
So,
Jeff narrating everything. You still have to have Jeff on the podcast. I'm a little disappointed.
Yeah, we gotta do that. We gotta set that up.
We're definitely getting Jeff on.
Yeah.
We're getting Jeff on.
You
100%.
talk about the band days, $30,000 Les Paul that he owns.
Traveling with Mike Iaconelli.
Traveling with Mike Iaconelli, yep. Almost winning the EverStart Championship twice.
So much to talk about.
Yep.
We were talking about doing the live podcast on the water, and this is one we definitely want to be the first one.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah.
Jeff would be awesome.
You just sit around and be like, Jeff live.
I just think it'd be hilarious how many times we'd ask him a question and he'd just be like staring at a fish on Panoptics, just not paying attention.
Uh-huh.
Jeff, you gonna catch one? I'm all set.
Yeah, you're like cracking up. I'm like, what is going on?
Yeah, I was like, didn't he say all set? You're like, I'm pretty sure he said all set. And he's like, what are you talking about?
You're like, I asked if you want to catch one.
So it's that day. He's just like, Jeff, how you doing? I'm all set.
Yeah, then I started cracking up too, of course.
Yep.
Oh, that was funny. That was like the running joke the rest of the day, even when we're eating chicken wings. It was hilarious.
Oh, yes. Jeff, you want a chicken wing? Nah, I'm all set.
Yeah, it's a chicken wing.
Yeah.
So,
Well, dude,
anyways, we're just rambling rabbit holes here.
yeah, rabbit holes
That's
on
like
rabbit
par
holes.
for the course, though, right? That's kind of like the thing.
It's a
That's our
motto.
backbone.
Go.
That's the motto of the Serious Angler podcast. Just
You got to have your shtick.
Yeah, 100%. But dude, you're complete with your rookie season on the Bassmaster Elite Series, and obviously you're getting ready for 2021 Elite Series. The schedule's been released, but obviously with 2020 being concluded, what are your thoughts? What are things you did well, and what are some adjustments you think you need to make going into next season?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing when you're coming to the Elite Series is learning how to efficiently practice in 3 days. And I think it takes you almost half the year to start getting your kind of system down, because in the opens, it's like you could practice as long as you wanted, honestly. People would go practice for a month for an open, for gosh sake. So that was probably the biggest thing. I definitely figured it out late in the game, like my own system. So hopefully that'll translate next year a lot better. But just like anything, when you're new, you're a rookie, you just got to learn the ropes of things and how things, are conducted, and just get comfortable. And it takes some time. I mean, that's why most of the time the rookies, they give them 2 or 3 years to kind of get their bearings before starting to boot people off. But it was a fun season. It was a wild one, as all of us in 2020 know. Nothing was par for the course.
No.
But I mean, there's things to build on. Obviously, I wasn't as consistent as I wanted to be. I don't know. There's really not an excuse. I mean, you could make up reasons and things for. I mean, there is real reasons of things, but it really doesn't help talking about it. I mean, all you have to do is just address it and fix those things if you know what they are. And
yeah.
Control the controllable. That's all you can do, and that's totally part of the mental thing. And I think that's such a big aspect of tournament fishing, and just fishing in general, is just how important that mindset is, how important that mental toughness, just to be able to deflect things. You finish last in the tournament, and then the next tournament you go out and get a top 10. You just don't let things bother you that much. You just kind of take the punches, roll with them, and that's the most important thing in fishing and in life too. I mean, I think it translates to everything.
Mm-hmm. I mean, that's just accepting it, right? Even if you have a bad tournament, it's accepting it. What's the 24-hour rule that people talk about, or is it be pissed about it for 24 hours and then you can't just forget about it?
Yeah, exactly. Unfortunately for us, we didn't really have that luxury a lot of times when we had those 3 tournaments swings in a row, in the fall. So you kind of really, if you had a tough day or a tough tournament, you really had to be able to bounce back quick.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no doubt. Now you talking about adjustments of be getting into the Elite Series of that 3 days of practice versus the Opens, having a month. For someone whose main goal of joining the Opens is to make the Elite Series, do you think it'd be more advantageous for them to, even though they might have a month to be able to practice, to only limit themselves to 3 days to help prepare for if they, the chances of them making the Elite Series?
Yeah, I would say in a utopian perfect world, I would do that. But when you're fishing against guys that are practicing for a month, which is the difference, because in Elites you can't. In the Opens you can. You got to give yourself every advantage you can. I mean, I wasn't practicing for a month for the Opens, but I'd usually give it a week. Like I'd have a week before a tournament. And like now, I want to fish the Opens again next year, but I will not spend that much time. I'll probably spend 4 or 5 days practicing now. But now I have, it's not my main priority to make the Elite Series. It'll also help me to stay in that 3-day, the shorter practice mindset too. But I wouldn't shortchange yourself if you're trying to make the Elite Series, because you're competing, you'd be kind of putting yourself at a disadvantage unless you're a guy that had a ton of experience, like some of these guys that just made the Elite Series again that had already been here, that have already fished these lakes 100 times. Like that's the difference.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you're that guy, yeah, you don't need to put in that kind of time. A lot of these veterans don't even pre-fish because they've been to these places a lot. So that's another thing. Yeah, pre-fishing is a big thing too. I think people really underestimate the value of pre-fishing. I think I pre-fished for maybe all but one tournament, all but one or two.
Now, when you say pre-fishing, that's up until the 30-day before cut line. You can kind of go to a lake and scope it out and look around, right?
Yeah, right. So we have 28-day cutoffs from the first day of practice, before. So we can go scope out the lake, especially places you've never been to. It's really important. I mean, I think we're going to Sabine River next year. There's hundreds of miles you can fish of that river system, and it's just overwhelmingly big. But you go pre-fish, you get a little more comfortable. I mean, that's Lake Fork was kind of a little bit scary for me. I went there to pre-fish. It helped a lot. I went to Santee to pre-fish in the spring when we were supposed to have the spring tournament, just a little bit. And it helped just get a little more comfortable just running around there, because those places, not only is it, it's challenging to find the areas that the fish are, you can win the tournament, but they're just treacherous to navigate. Like you can literally hurt yourself really badly in places like that. And like a Sabine River system that just got pounded with hurricanes, that's another place you definitely want to go put in your pre-fish time at a place like that, because you don't want to be figuring it out the day of the tournament. You don't want to be figuring it out during your official practice when you're trying to find bites.
Mm-hmm.
You want to know where you're navigating before you go there, and it's just going to save you a lot of time.
Yeah, that learning curve of a new body of water, learning where everything is, getting the lay of the land, that sort of deal, kind of, especially if it's a place that has current, or like you said, like a Santee or a Fork, where there is that hazard of breaking down. Yeah,
there was a few lower units and trolling motors eaten at those tournaments, especially Lake Fork.
Yeah, without a doubt. Now, walking away from your rookie season, though, is there something that you're kind of, I'd say, most proud of, I guess, going into your next season? Something that you feel you're walking away as an accomplishment?
I'd say probably never having like 2 bad tournaments in a row. Just even if I had a tough tournament, like I usually was able to bounce back and like not let it bother me. I'd say making a top 20 and a top 10 in my rookie year. I was pretty psyched about that.
Yeah.
Like obviously you have expectations. When you have success at other levels, you want to come in and do, that. But sometimes it's unrealistic at first. You just kind of gotta. I still have a lot to learn. We all do. But honestly, I still feel like at a knowledge level, as a Southern angler, I'm probably still like a 24-year-old. And as a Northern angler, I'm probably like a 28-year-old. Just because I never even fished a tournament until I was almost done with college.
Right. That's fair. I didn't know that. I didn't know you didn't fish a tournament until college.
I didn't even know. I never threw a drop shot till I was like 21 years old. I never even could use a bait caster until I was like 21 years old.
How old are you now? You're what, 30?
Yeah, I turned 31.
And then by the time you're 24, you're whooping everybody on those small lakes around Erie, PA.
I mean, a couple of them, but usually, like, I was focusing so much because the learning curve, and like Bailey, we were talking about this earlier because you were thinking about fishing some of the bigger stuff as a co-angler, and I was talking to somebody else about this too, and I highly suggest it. It is the best way to get rid of that learning curve. Make it shorter, like there's just some things that take a long time to learn, but you can just shorten that up so much by going as a co-angler, eating, biting down and, putting your pride aside and going fishing with other people and learning from them. And even if you don't catch them as good, you're always learning something. I mean, I fished down south in the Bassmaster Southern Opens. I never even fished in the South before. I was literally like, I went by myself as a co-angler and stayed in like crappy hotels by myself. And I never even fished down south. And I got third in the Southern Open points. And I got a check in every single one. But it was just because, like, I wasn't always catching giant bags. It was just like, even if it was bad, I just stayed with it. All you got to do really as a co-angler is stay with it.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people are just mentally out of it. Like, well, they're not doing what I want. And this is like, get over it, dude. If you're in this situation, you need to just bear down and do the best you can in the situation. And that applies to being a pro too.
Oh, yeah.
Complaining doesn't help you. Honestly, it doesn't.
It probably drags you back further because you're not learning. You're putting that mental block up as I want to do it this way, but a lot of times, even when you're just fishing, you can't just do it the way that you want to.
Right.
You always have to adjust.
Yeah, as you know, like Andy, you and I had to adjust that day that we caught 29 pounds.
Heck yeah, we did. Big time.
We had one fish in the first hour.
No, I think it was at 8:30 we had one.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. Hour and a half.
It was a good one. Like it was one that was like 6. But we had one fish. And then like we got to make a decision. And I started moving and we started making decisions, you and I both. And it started working. But sometimes you just, it's not working. Well, you just spin out, No matter how bad it is, like just don't spin out. There's no reason. It's never going to help you. So what if you're okay? Well, I only got one fish here. I don't have 20 pounds by 10 o'clock. Like, okay, well, now I spent $1,500 in this entry fee and I spent $1,000 on travel for this open or whatever it is. You cannot think about that.
Mm-hmm.
It's never productive.
No. As soon as you get negative thoughts, your day's only going to get more negative.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know about you guys, but one of my favorite things to do at that point, if I do feel myself starting to spin, I will sit down, eat something. Even though I never have food on the boat, I will find a snack to sit down, eat, take a swig of water, and think first. Like, yeah, I'll snack on a flatworm. Like, what are the best? Obviously, what am I going to do with throwing this Berkeley Gulp minnow?
Like, you're sucking them down like spaghetti noodles.
Yeah.
Like, Andy, why don't we have any flatworms left?
I got hungry.
Sorry, dude. I get hungry when I'm nervous.
They taste like crap.
Eat some Z-Man plastics and grow a third arm.
Yeah. Dude, that's a really good point. Like, I've worked with some like performance people that like do high-end professional sports. And like that is a very key cog of what you just said. So like if you feel like something, you just need to like reset. It's a mental reset. And yours is you go sit down and eat something. You can make it anything. You can tip your hat, you can kneel down and fiddle with your graphs. Like, and then you reset your mind into thinking, okay, it's a new quarter, it's a new period, it's time to refocus. Like whatever happened is gone.
Yeah. 100%.
Absolutely.
Could even just be, going back to a bait that you have more confidence in, even though it might not work in that scenario, but just making a couple casts with it, getting the feel, and then you kind of mentally feel better.
And even though they might not be on it, they bite like the tail off of it. You're like, oh, it's just a color adjustment.
Yeah, exactly.
Kinds of clues that we miss while we're fishing because we're spinning out, that if you can take that second to readjust and slow down while speeding up, which is kind of counterintuitive, but you can figure it out if you just take a breath.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
And the one thing that I found that's, like you said, if you're throwing something, even if it's maybe not the exact right thing or the textbook thing, but you feel confident in it, that's what you need to be throwing. Or if you need to go back to an area, that's where you need to go.
Mm-hmm.
If you're losing your confidence in an area, if you don't feel it, you got to go. You have to go, and you got to go to somewhere where you are confident. Because I don't care if it's not the right thing, it's not the right bait. If you got confidence in there, a lot of times that can make it work. You might not win every time, but that's going to save your day. And sometimes you will win.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Fair
But
enough.
if you're not confident in it, it's not going to work.
Well,
Yeah.
it's kind of funny too. If everybody goes back and looks at like the Bassmaster recap of the tournaments, if you look at all top 10 anglers, usually they all are using something different.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it tells you that you need to fish your confidence as opposed to what Doc Talk or what everybody else is doing. Unless
Absolutely.
it's like a pre-spawn event where they're all eating jerk baits on Grand Lake for the Bassmaster.
Right.
Like,
Yeah. Some of those are just, you got to find the area. Like everybody knows the bait, but you've just got to find the area. But sometimes just tweaking that bait just a little bit, making it just act a little bit different in the water will also help you get some of those bites that people aren't getting. But that's a very good point. I mean, that's really, really important.
No doubt. Are there any adjustments that you're going to make going into next season off the water? Maybe something that isn't fishing related, but kind of helps you prepare for a tournament?
Yeah, the thing I'm doing right now, like it was crazy. And with only like a month of an off season, when there's generally 3, it's very condensed. The sponsor side of it, the getting your boat done and ordered and all the accessories, because a lot of us, when you get a boat, and this is the first year for me when I'm going to be getting one every year, you've got to get your boat, so you've got to deal with your boat. Then you've got to deal with your graphs. Then you've got to deal with your jack blade. Then you got to deal with this. And then you got to deal. So you got to get all that stuff. You got to make sure all those pieces are coming at the same time so they can be put on the boat. Everything's ready. You got to make sure you know those dates and stuff when you can go pick up the boat. And then when you get the schedule, you got to figure all that out. But like another thing, like one of the things that I've been doing to like help control some of the things while I've got back is when you're traveling, it's really hard to eat well. Like when you're driving to Texas and you're driving to Florida and sometimes you just got to eat fast food, and it's unfortunate because it makes you feel like crap. But I've been really trying to eat a lot better, and I have been. And I've been going back to the gym, which I'd kept running when I was during the season. I do some like other exercise, but now I'm like going to the gym hard. I'm running. I'm trying to take care of myself because I'm trying to get stamina, because your stamina, if you can build it right now, it's going to carry you for the first couple of tournaments, and then you can kind of rebound, get some of that stamina back, and then you can keep it going through the next set of tournaments, and kind of like that. So that's what I'm really focusing on. Because if you're physically fatigued, you're going to be mentally fatigued. That's just a fact.
Yeah.
And people laugh about fishing and being in shape and exercise, and eating right. Yeah, okay. Guess what? When you're at a high level of anything, if you can have an edge, if you can do something that's going to help you in any way, why would you not do it?
Yeah. 4 days, especially if it's, say it's like a St. Clair, right? Which can get bumpy. 4 days on rough water takes a lot out of you. It beats the crap out of you physically.
It does. You guys know how that is just living up in the north. We know how it feels if you've got – most of us, you're fishing 1 or 2 days. But, yeah, when you've got 4, 5, 6 days on that and getting beat up, like it feels like you're in a car wreck. And it's probably similar physically to being in one.
Yeah, you have the bruises and the aches and the pains to show for it. You're sitting there in the bed after day 2, and you're like trying to get up in the day, and you're like, ooh.
I guess a pretty good equivalent I could think of is like when you're on that really good frog bite and you set the hook 20 times.
Oh.
It feels like driving the boat around for an hour, like 4-footers on Erie. Like your ribs hurt, your hips hurt.
Or 10
shoulder.
minutes with Andrew driving.
Possibly do a first on the Serious Angler podcast live on the video portion.
Yeah.
I'm going to do a striptease now.
Oh, geez.
Talking about the frog bite thing. Those are all permanent frog bite scars from the butt of the rod hitting me.
Nice.
That's crazy.
I got on one frog bite on one of the bays off Lake Ontario, and I think I caught like 70 fish, and I literally had a bruise across my rib for 3 weeks because I was in a 7.6 heavy with like 60-pound braid, and I was hitting them so hard every time I set the hook, my body would hurt. I put ice on my ribs that night for like a week straight. Like I'm like, I can't breathe.
You probably cracked one of your ribs or something.
Probably did. Like it was right where my floating ribs are down the bottom. Oh my gosh, talk about pain. It was like 11 o'clock, and I'm like, I don't know if I can frog anymore. We're still eating it.
It hurts so good.
It burns so good.
But when you're biting the frog, like you don't even care.
No.
You just keep going.
But the worst part about it is I remember it eat it as like your first 2 to 3 twitches on the furthest cast you can get back in the slop. So you're getting like a 70 to an 80-foot cast back in there, and then they would eat it in the first like 2 twitches in the slop.
Bring the whole way back.
So you had to hit them as hard as you could and keep the rod up the whole time. Like, I prayed that on nobody, but it was so much fun.
Oh, dude. Yeah. That's like one where, okay, it hurt, but like you loved it. You loved it.
Like, you're like hooting and hollering, and then also it's like, oh, I can't wait to get another one. And you go to make a cast, you're like, oh.
It makes you want to be ambidextrous and just start setting the hook on the other side.
Except then you like pull your shirt up and it'd just be like a solid bruise the whole way around. It looked like you had like a WWE belt around there, like too tight.
Yeah.
Serious Angler pro tip: have a lefty and a righty on deck. So when your left side or your right side of your ribs start hurting while frogging, you can switch arms.
There you go. That's a good YouTube tip.
I think the worst thing that's ever happened to me frogging was out with my buddy Nate. We were frogging at a local lake, and he jacks one but misses it, and I hear it, and I'm facing the other way, throwing a Senko or a chatterbait off the grass edge. He was throwing up, and I was throwing off the bank. And I look as he sets the hook, and the frog comes flying back and smacks me in the face, and I just have a frog imprint on my cheek.
Did the hooks leave like 2 marks?
Yeah, it was thankfully it was the belly, so I didn't get the hook side. But yeah, you saw like part of the 2 legs right here, and then the belly, and then just 2 arms.
Oh my gosh! Did it like bruise like that?
It was just more of like you have
Like
something 5-star in the back or something. It was like that for like 3 hours.
That's hilarious.
I hate it when like they eat it and you feel them for that half second, you rip on them and it comes flying back at you. You're just like, what the frick?
Nothing worse.
Especially when they're like 20 feet away and they're in like that danger zone of the frog hitting you when you set the hook. That's never good.
Oh, dude, okay. You want to talk about so flipping and you miss them when you set the hook and that tungsten comes flying back at you. It's nice in a boat because you can get out of the way. In a kayak, you can't get out of the way.
Dude, I never thought of that.
You're bracing for it. You are covering up the important parts, and you were just waiting to get hit.
Yeah.
You need to wear like a hard hat out there or something.
Be amazing.
Yeah.
Wear your rec specs and your hard hat next time.
Wear my chest pads.
Yeah, wear your hockey stuff, dude.
So here's a trick question. Not so much a trick question. What would you say is more painful, catching 100 smallies on a drop shot rod for your wrist or frogging all day and setting the hook while frog fishing?
Dude, catching 100 smallmouth on a jerkbait.
Yeah, that's
jerkbait
too.
Jerkbait would probably be worse.
Oh, your forearms are on fire.
Yes.
Yeah.
And your wrist is just like locked up at that point. And it just lasts for like a week after.
More power.
That day we were on Erie though, when it was so cold and you were catching them late in the day on the drop shot, and you're like using your armpit to hold the rod because your wrist doesn't work because it's so cold, like it just doesn't function.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
That sucks. So much fun, but it sucks at the same time.
That happened 2 weeks ago. We went to Erie with my buddies because obviously I'm on a boat right now. But I hooked this giant lake trout. And it literally just, I hooked it. I was like, what the heck? Am I snagged? And it like would not move. And it just like a submarine just starts slowly like swimming behind my boat. I'm like, what the heck? And like literally I couldn't reel because my hands were so cold. I was like, I can't reel the handle.
I remember sitting there at awards with Mike, and we're trying to do the picture, and I'm sitting there. I'm like, Mike, I might drop one of these fish.
I literally picked on Destin all day during that Douglas Derby because my hands are like radiators. They almost
Bear paws.
cold. Destin's like trying to find.
I'm like, down like my armpits and hands.
My hands are sweating. I'm so jacked up.
Yeah, dude. If I could trade Andy for one quality, that would be it.
One, just one.
Well, Andy, there's so many, but if I could pick one, I want that one.
You want my hands?
Bear paws.
Oh, I totally accredit to working at the car wash in the winters and not wearing gloves or wearing real thin gloves.
Yeah.
My hands do not get cold. I can steelhead fish in like 20-degree weather with no gloves on all day. With
That's literally, you are like in the upper echelon of like cold tolerance.
Like my feet will get
that is
way
man.
cold, and I'm just like, it's past the point. They're numb. We're good to go.
So it's just your hands. Your feet still get cold.
My feet do when they're in water, but if I'm outside of water, they don't get cold.
Gotcha.
Like my feet sweat all the time.
I
If
feel
I'm
like
able to move around a little bit, I'm fine. But yeah, my hands definitely get cold.
Oh, even just standing still in like 6 inches of snow, my feet don't get cold.
no, like the hand. I don't really cold doesn't bother me other than my hands. That's it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's about it.
Just
Well,
don't-
dude, yeah, let's talk about 2021. I mean, obviously, we're going to go into the schedule here, but
do it.
I mean, basic thoughts going into 2021. What you're excited for, what you might not be excited for.
The main things that jump out at me. We're finishing the season in the middle of July, which is awesome. We're going to Lake Fork in the spring, which should be awesome.
Incredible.
And honestly, I'd say one of my weaknesses is like Tennessee River ledge fishing, and we're going to get a couple of those. So obviously, I've not had much success doing that, but it's going to force me to, which it's good to go outside of your comfort zone a little bit. I mean, I've been able to catch them shallow at Tennessee River at those times of year, and hopefully I can, but I'm hoping that it forces me to really improve on the ledge fishing stuff. And then the Sabine River, a lot of people are like not happy about that, obviously, but that's probably the one I'm looking most forward to just because it's different. Like it's just, you just don't know what you're going to get. It changes year to year because of the hurricanes and stuff, and you're catching little fish. But it just seems like one of those ones where anyone could win it. Like the slugfests are way harder to win. The tough tournaments you could easily bomb, but you could easily win too.
I personally love tough grinder tournaments, but and for your sake, I don't actually almost hope the Sabine would fish a little bit like the James because you've had so much success on the James and Tidal River fisheries.
Right.
So I'm sure that's something you actually are really looking forward to.
Yeah, I think so. I think like we were talking about the pre-fishing, the navigation and the pre-fishing time is going to be paramount. Like I should spend probably some more time there than I would somewhere else, just because it's such a big place and navigation is treacherous there too. And they don't live everywhere. So you just kind of got to find where they live, and there's hundreds of miles to look.
Yeah.
It's got to make you feel good, though, that you're going back to St. John's.
Yeah, that I forgot to mention that one. That is good.
Yeah.
I feel like I kind of messed up the first time. I mean, I still got a check. Like I still got a $10,000 check, but I feel like I messed up.
Fair enough. Yeah. Well, because that's a place you used to guide on, correct?
It is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When's the
So
last
like
time
after
you
the
guided
tournament,
that?
my buddy that I'm staying with, he runs the lodge that I guided at. He's like, dude, it was so hard for me not to say anything. He's like, the place that you guide every single day is where one of the guys made the top 10. And he's like, another guy, when we guide out of another lodge, that's where you always go, and that's where he made the top 10.
And you didn't go to either
I went
place?
and watched the coverage. I was like, I waited till now to watch the coverage because I was like, I don't even want to think about it right now. But yeah, sure enough, there's a lot of areas that I'm very familiar with.
That's good. Well, I'm excited for you for that one. That's for sure. But yeah, Fork's gonna. I'm sure 100 pounds is gonna be.
Oh yeah.
Oh, that'd be like 120, probably 115, 120. I bet.
I think you'll see multiple. I mean, if
How
things
many?
line up right, obviously the weather and everything, but I think you're going to see multiple 100-pound.
Like if you were to
guys
put a
doing-
number on what place,
What's that?
if you were to put a number on like what you think would be fifth will be have 100 pounds, seventh will have 100 pounds.
Yeah,
like,
yeah, I'll say fifth.
fifth.
Well, the last spring derby, I think it was top 6. I think all had 100. The last spring
Really?
derby, yeah, I think it was top 6.
That's insane.
Good grief.
I just
And
wanted
then-
to experience because we went there at a really tough time of year, other than unless your name was Patrick Walters because he smashed them. But for all of us other mortals in that tournament, it was very tough. You're fishing for 5 to 7 bites, if that.
Yeah. I know you're not allowed to talk about it. I just want to say one comment, and it was how he caught him was awesome.
It was, and it wasn't something that other guys, including myself, weren't doing.
Right.
He was just executing it much better. He had it dialed in.
Yeah, that was crazy. And then the next one on the list is Neely Henry. What are your thoughts there?
It's not a place I've ever been. But from my understanding, I know a little bit about it because one of our other friends lives near there.
Mhm.
So we had talked about it over the years, and I think it's probably going to set up as a shallow tournament, which could be fun. Depending
I
on
don't
the
know
water
much about
level.
Neely Henry. I don't know much about it at all.
It's got a lot of. Did you follow the Lay Lake events at all this last Open?
Yeah.
So it's got a lot of that submerged bank grass type stuff. I'm pretty sure Neely has that, and that's a big deal. So I think you're going to see swim jig, frog, Senko, flipping.
A lot of 2 to 3 pound spots.
There is a good bit of spots in there. I think the key is going to be find those big largemouth it is.
Typical southern fishing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it
So
could be
what you're
fun.
saying is I should take Greg Hackney from my fantasy fishing for Neely Henry.
If I was a betting man, I'd say he's probably going to do good, and he's probably been there 100 times in his career, so that helps.
Very true. I think a guy who's been in the game that long, there's not many places he hasn't been.
Yeah, he's good. I'm sure he's going to catch them everywhere. He's the man.
I know you've obviously fished against, and I'm sure with a lot of these big name guys, but you get to fish against Greg Hackney. That's got to feel kind of cool. Also, kind of a little daunting, but kind of cool.
Yeah, I was just talking to somebody about this the other day, and they're like, "Oh, it's going to make it tougher, but it's got to be cool." Yeah, I was like, "Yeah, it is," because I don't really think that any human makes it tougher. It's you that makes it tougher. You know what you got to do. You got to catch fish. If you're allowing someone else to intimidate you just because they're good, you're going to struggle. But I've got a ton of respect for the guy. He's the man, and he's probably the best shallow water angler in the world.
I'd say it's pretty dang close, if not right on.
I mean,
I think we bring this up a lot on this podcast. It's not so much you versus the 100 other anglers. It's you against the 5 fish that you're trying to catch every day. So
and yourself.
And it's the Elite Series. Yeah, you can't beat up yourself. As you spin out, you're done.
Right.
And the first 2 days are so crucial at getting a better payday. So it's survive day 1 and 2 and then make a run day 3. I think that'd be my strategy if I did it.
Yeah.
Try to survive the first 2 days and swing for it on day 3.
I think it's variable where you are.
Yeah.
So Florida, if it's a winter turn, you got to come out swinging.
Yeah.
And then you might not catch crap the next day, but that bag the first day will carry you.
Mm-hmm. That's a good point.
That was my strategy at St. John's this time. I saw over 30 pounds of fish on the bed the last day of practice, but I knew with the weather conditions it'd be really iffy if any of them stayed. I knew some of the males would, and they were good. They were good males. But, I mean, when you get a cold front like that, the females pull off and the water drops. So, you just got to be aware of that, and shame on me because I know better.
Yeah. Yeah, live and learn. make the adjustments.
But
Next year's new year.
too, I know you're not a very jittery person, but I'm sure that for the Elite Series tournament, there's some jitters, some adversity, being like, "Wow, I can't believe I'm here," type deal.
The first one, yeah, just the first one, I was just like, wow, like I'm here. But I think what also made it like cool is just because like it was in Palatka, like it was kind of like my second home. Like I'd lived down there for the last 4 years in the winter and just like knew a bunch of people. I knew like almost most of the guys in the fishing scene, knew a lot of people around town. I spent a lot of time there, so that was cool. And there was a lot of fans because it was before the COVID stuff. So it was like that was a true Elite Series experience, the first tournament. Because you come out on the stage, you've got your entrance music, and then bam, there's thousands of people right there, and they're all like hyped, and you feel that energy. So that was really cool.
Yeah. I don't think I actually ever heard the song for when you came out on stage. What was your song?
It's POD Southtown.
POD Southtown.
Mm-hmm.
Bailey's country boy. He doesn't know who POD is.
Oh.
And he's probably too young too. I was like,
Wait, is that the band?
4 or 5 years too young.
I think I
yeah,
know
I
one
think you're a
song.
few years too young.
Is that Boom? Was it Boom one of their
Yeah,
songs?
that was one of their songs. Yep.
Okay. That's probably the only one on that.
It sounded like the wheels turning in his head. He's like, POT.
Is it that obvious?
Well, it's funny when I hear POD, I think of like bankers terms and like payable on death, and I'm like, who just died?
That's what it sounds for actually.
Payable.
Payable on death.
I had no idea what that is.
So layman bankers terms here. Payable on death is you put a beneficiary on your account. When you pass away, the money goes to that person. Basically, no questions asked. So
sucks whoever's going to, because like it's gonna be fat zero
right now.
Yeah.
You're rolling in the big bucks on a serious angler podcast.
Oh yeah, millionaires over here on this stage.
Dude, you know what I've said. You're doing a really awesome job with this, and you're really gaining a lot of traction. And a lot of people in the industry really are taking notice and enjoy watching it and listening to it. And I do, that's for sure.
I appreciate it, dude. Well, a lot of it's in due to your help, so we appreciate it. But let's see what else we got. We got Gunnersville in May. That should be a lot of fun.
Yeah, that's one that could be. It's probably gonna be a ledge thing, but it could also be a shallow thing.
Right.
I feel like that's the one Jamie won 2 years ago on the Spook.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of
yeah, that was 2 years ago.
That'd be like post-spawn summer pattern somewhere in there.
Yeah, I think that was what was going on in that one. So it could be a similar setup to that. You got some guys punching. You guys got throwing top water on the grass edges. You got ledge fishing. You got some flipping just junk and stuff like that.
That could be a lot of fun.
Flipping docks and whatever.
Heck yeah.
I don't know about you, but I was personally hoping that there would be a couple more fall tournaments, like going into fall in the northern hemisphere than the southern.
Like, you mean in Buffalo, like in October?
I would love to see a major tournament in Buffalo in like September, but you would never get 4 days in.
No.
I think that's really the reason they haven't come back. It's just because even to get to the river is kind of a pain if it's really blowing hard.
Oh yeah.
But believe me, I pushed it and I pushed it hard.
Well, yeah, they're like, yeah, you got 30 pounds. Of course you want to go.
Well, even Erie, PA, or just
Sandusky would.
Sandusky.
Yeah, that's true.
I don't think the elites have went to Erie proper since 2008. The St. Clair events, there was a back when they could go to Erie, but we couldn't. Mm-hmm. But I don't think they went to Buffalo in 2008.
Yeah, it was 2000. Yeah, 2007
and 8, I think.
And Edwin Evers and Kodo Kiriyami won.
Yep.
Both fishing relatively the same area.
Yes.
Dang.
Oh.
Did not know that. I lack in fishing history.
Oh, so funny story. I went back and I didn't know this until a couple months ago, and I forgot to tell you about this. I went back and watched some of those old Buffalo Elite Series tournaments.
Yeah.
One of my juice holes is where Aaron Martin spent 4 days.
Are you serious?
I was like, oh, I know where that spot, because
awesome.
There was a specific thing that used to be there. Now it's not there. So
all right.
I was like, ooh, I know that juice hole. And then I think in one of the scenes actually shows like his graph, and I was like, oh yeah, I know right where that is.
There's probably not many spots that between you, Jeff, and I don't know in that area.
That's true.
Now you're gonna get 100 people who go watch that old Elite Series.
But if you've never fished there and you look at a graph and then you go and look at your own avionics, it all looks the same.
It does.
So you really have to know what you're looking at to understand it.
You got to put in the time behind the wheel. You got to idle. You really got to spend the time out there to find the stuff. And that's anywhere Great Lakes fishing. That's what you got to do.
Oh, yeah.
I think I almost have too many waypoints on my end of Erie at this point. I probably have close to 1,200 waypoints that have just isolated random stuff.
But you never know. Like, you're like, oh, I marked this before and it was a rock, and you just pull over. You might catch one every 5 years, but it's one that helps you. You just don't know.
Yeah. I think that's what strays a lot of people away. I think that's what scares people away from fishing the Great Lakes.
What?
No, I'm saying like certain people, like, so you take someone, say from our area, right? From, say, my area in the Finger Lakes, that they're used to fishing the Finger Lakes. Say, you know, take like a Cayuga or Oneida, and they're used to fishing, you know, grass for like largemouth. But then you see all these guys on Ontario or Erie catching smallmouth, and they have no idea how to find them. And so they get out there, and then they're like, okay, what do I do now? You know, they might just start, especially if they don't have side imaging too. I mean, it's extremely difficult unless you know how to find those fish. I think that's what keeps certain anglers away from the Great Lakes is, one, obviously, because the conditions can be a lot worse. But then two, it's just, I think, one, people don't know where to start. And then two, people aren't willing to put in those, 6-7 hours of on your graphs, just staring at it, looking for fish. I think that's what strays a lot of people away from that.
I totally agree. I mean, when I got my first fiberglass boat, I literally would not even fish much. I would literally idle miles and miles and just grid like my part of Erie.
Mm.
Well, you also live in the
thousands of waypoints. What's that?
You live in the land of like nothingness.
Yeah. Well, we have a lot of rock, but it's all the same. Like, it's that shale.
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
So, like, you've got to find something different most of the time.
Right.
And yeah, you've just got like nothing in other areas.
Yeah. So next up here is Pickwick in June, and that's probably going to be a straight ledge fishing deal, I would imagine.
Yeah, I would think. I don't know if it was you or somebody else was talking. There was an interview with Justin Atkins about it, because that's like his home water. He just made the elites. I don't think he was too psyched about it. And I think the reason is because there's not as many secrets anymore on these ledge lakes, because they just get pummeled, and there's no spots that are like, staying safe anymore, because guys have to give their juice away in these tournaments to win. So people are finding these spots, and there's really no secrets, which I think that's kind of also what's created other viable patterns in those kind of Tennessee River tournaments, because those are getting so pounded that it opens up the opportunity to do well doing other stuff. But I still think it would be a ledge-dominated thing, but it could be pretty challenging, especially by that time of year. They've probably got pounded for a month or at least a few weeks at that point. And they're a lot harder to catch at that time.
I thought, I think I read an article, it was probably about John Cox, but they were pretty much trying to highlight that, when you look at like a Tennessee or further south, how there's this, obviously ledge fishing, offshore fishing has become so popular that a lot of people are getting used to doing that as the mainstream and getting away from the bank. So you see like a John Cox go up on the bank where there's less pressured fish, and that's why he's doing so well. Where up here in the north, a lot of guys are bank beaters, whereas offshore deal might be more productive, could be more productive.
Right.
I think it's interesting to see that trend kind of shift.
Yeah, I mean, the electronics domination is causing that for sure, where the bank fish are getting less pressure.
Mm-hmm.
And you can go figure them out. It might not be the best thing going if you get 50 guys doing it, but if there's 10 guys doing it, yeah, you might win doing it. You never know.
Yeah, 100%.
I feel like if you're fishing like shallower too, there's way more management you have to do with your fish than out on the edge as well.
I agree.
No doubt. Yeah.
You have to know the exact time to pull out so you have enough fish for the next 2 to 3 days if you make it past the second day.
Right.
So there's a lot of crazy decisions you have to make when you decide to chase that 10 to 20% of the fish population.
Right. And I think obviously John Cox has done very well doing that. And I think there's the same level of management with the ledge stuff too. I mean, a lot of guys know how to rotate that stuff and when to back off a school and when to pound them. I mean, that's also like an experience thing too with the ledge fishing. But there's more fish out there, obviously, like you were saying, than there are up at the bank on that time of year for the most part, unless the water's high or something crazy different. Kind of like we had you follow, there's still a lot of fish shallow.
Yeah.
I personally like those like weird transition tournaments because it's junk fishing. Everyone catches them a different way, and I think those are the most exciting tournaments because you don't know what's going to happen from an hour-to-hour basis.
Yeah, I think
there's no pattern really. It's just you're just fishing.
I think you got a lot of that in these fall tournaments.
Mm-hmm.
I think you got a lot of that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Where it was very even guys that did well, and even myself, like at Santee, doing really well. Dude, you didn't know what was going to happen.
Yeah.
You just kept slinging, and you get 5, 6, 7 bites, and you just hope that they were good ones.
That's got to be such a mentally, the mentally tough will do well in a tournament like that. For those, if you're not getting all bites, and you might only get 5 or 6 bites all day, and I feel like those who aren't as mentally tough are going to be questioning themselves constantly throughout the day. Should I be doing something different? Should I throw something different? Where you might have, that bait that's going to get bit. You're in the area. You just need to keep making casts. Now, somebody who not mentally strong enough to keep doing that. I mean, that's you got to be.
It comes with experience. I really believe. And I mean, at Santee, I was beating up 2 like circles of cypress trees. I mean, it was a pretty big area. It was like a few 100-yard circles.
Mm.
But I would just keep beating those trees for 7, 8 bites.
Right. Makes sense.
And I would just keep beating them, and I had confidence in what I was doing. And I adjusted some throughout the tournament, but I mean, the chatterbait got really good, and I rode that probably a little bit too long the last day. But I mean, you figure it out as you go in the tournament, and some patterns are going up and others are going down, and then some are going like this, and it's all kind of what it is, and that's what makes fishing great is you don't always know, especially those kind of tournaments. You don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
You do your best.
Yeah. Well,
it's very important to have like a positive mental attitude in those situations because you could be at 11 o'clock and have no bites, and all of a sudden by 11:45 you have 5 fish in the boat or 3. They're like, okay, I just need 2 more bites in 4 hours.
Yeah.
3 hours. And if you break that down, I mean, the average person, if you're fishing for 5 to 7 bites, that means you're getting a bite every hour and a half.
Yeah.
If you look at it from that point, you can almost be like, okay, 2 bites in 4 hours is very doable because it's a 2-hour thing.
Yes. And that's a really good point. And mentally, I think it helps thinking about it that way because that's what I would use. I would say if I was on a guide trip and it was really tough or something like that, if it's like the heat of summer, I'd be like, we're going to get a bite an hour, and they're going to be good ones. And, you know what's going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
And if you just tell your mind that you're going to get a bite an hour and you're staying on track and you might catch 2 this hour and you're like, all right, we're ahead of schedule. And then at the end of the day, you caught 8 or 10 fish over the course of the day. You're like, it's pretty much on track.
yeah.
And it just keeps you in the mind. Okay, I just caught one. I got 3 in the first 2 hours.
Yeah.
Well ahead of schedule. A bite an hour. A bite an hour.
It's funny. I don't know about Bailey, but I am a very slow starter when it comes to tournament fishing. I always expect to catch my fish after 10 o'clock. Always. That seems to be like my time is between 10 and 2. So any bite I get between 7 or 6 and 10, I am thrilled because I'm like, bonus, I'm way ahead. Because if I don't have any by 10 o'clock, it could be I can start spinning. That's when I go to my sandwich. But if I have 3 fish at 10 o'clock, I am the happiest person alive.
Yeah, you're like, I'm definitely going to catch 2 more good ones.
I think one of the biggest things I tried to help myself overcome this year and learn was windows, like windows of when you're going to get those bites. And like
Absolutely.
one thing I think I screwed up twice this year was I found bites in practice that were in the afternoon, and I tried to make that my first stop. And I didn't get bit, and I wondered why, and I kind of spun out a little bit after that till I kind of realized, okay, maybe this is just an afternoon deal, and went back in the afternoon and then caught them. So I think that's one of the things I learned this year. I think one of the biggest things is, just because you catch them, at 2 p.m. doesn't mean you're going to catch them at 8 a.m.
Absolutely. That's a great point.
Yeah. But after that, after Pickwick, you got in July back-to-back, it looks like Champlain and St. Lawrence River. That's going to be a fun 2 weeks for you.
It's going to be exciting ending the season on the St. Lawrence.
Yeah, and guess we just got some of our Elite Series stuff. I don't know if I'm supposed to say or whatnot, but obviously Texas Fest, the last tournament, was for a classic spot if you won it.
Mm-hmm.
The St. Lawrence will also be for a classic spot if you win that tournament.
That's pretty cool. That's sweet.
Gives you a little bit more, more incentive to possibly try and swing for it there.
Yeah,
absolutely. Hopefully at that point I don't have to worry as much as I did going into the last tournament here. That I would make a classic. Obviously, I've missed a little bit this year, but at least gives you the opportunity. Like, okay, well, I'm probably not going to make it through the points. I can still make it through this tournament and just put a lot of emphasis on that. But
yeah, well, hopefully COVID's all done and over with by then, so that Canada will be open for that. If I don't know where you guys are going out of. Oh, this is Waddington.
Waddington. That's where we're supposed to go this year too. But when I Clayton,
right.
Hopefully we can go to Waddington. I think it'd be cool. Just I haven't ever fished tournament out of there.
Yeah, that's pretty sweet. Is it usually open? The lake usually open for Waddington, or is it?
No, it won't be the lake. So I was going through the tournament the other day. I was looking at the weights, and I was like, "Wow, what different of a tournament this would have been without the lake." If you looked at the weights, out of Waddington that time of year, shoot, I think 15, 16 pounds a day is going to be pretty solid. I think to win that tournament, obviously you're going to need 20 a day, maybe 21, but probably not much more than that.
Right.
You're not going to need 25 a day.
Funky time on the Great Lakes, especially where we're at in New York. It's such a funky time.
Yes.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, middle of July, you're going to have – I think you're going to have pretty tough fishing conditions. If you look back at one of the tournaments they had there maybe 3 or 4 years ago, Edwin Evers won, the weights were very low. It was that post-spawn funk. And it could be setting up for that kind of an event.
I actually remember that tournament vividly because Shaw Grisby smashed him on day one. I think he had like 22 or 23 pounds on day one, and then day two, I believe he zeroed or only caught 1 fish.
Jeez. Yeah. That's that time of year, like post-spawn smallmouth can be really challenging.
Weird.
Yes.
Oh, yeah. 100%.
Depending on the timing. If they're out there set up and they're ready to feed up again, that's a different story. But if you time it before that, it could be a challenging tournament.
Yeah, the one thing that post-spawn smallies do a little bit more than largemouth is they just roam. They'll suspend like 10 feet below the surface, doing whatever they're doing. They just roam. They're like ghosts at that point. And if you find a couple and they want to play, they'll play, but they don't fight the same. They're not nearly as energetic. They're way skinnier than they normally would be. Yeah, and fish care in those tournaments are super prudent.
Oh yeah,
they're
that time of year too.
On.
Oh yeah.
So then you have to worry about the mortality rate of the fish too. So it's an extra variable you're going to be looking at.
It absolutely is, and obviously you guys saw I posted that thing from that Berkeley B1 not that long ago.
It was brutal. I remember when
that tournament was from 2019, but the image is still pretty scary and bad. I mean, it definitely provokes some emotional response to that.
If I remember, that B1 tournament was pretty much the last tournament they ran. I think they had like 3 or 4 tournaments that summer.
Yeah.
And like nobody showed up after that.
Right. I mean, that was terrible. Like those fish to get that old, like and that big, it takes a while. And that was terrible.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna try to push us doing like a catch weigh release for that tournament, and not all of them. I think it still has to be a show, and I think that's an aspect that we need. And it's bringing in 1 or 2 good ones every day, but you're still cutting down vastly on the mortality rates. And as you touched upon, like it's a tough time of year to care for those fish.
Yeah.
Like, they're fragile.
Do like the live weight for the first 2 days, and then you could do like a hybrid day on day 3, so you can bring in like one big one over like a certain inch mark. So if you have like a 20-inch fish, you bring in 1 20-incher and do the other hybrid, and then day 4 just 100% catch, weigh, and release. I think you would save a lot of fish lives if you did that.
Yeah, I mean, I think we should definitely have that conversation. I'm gonna do my part to hopefully make that a reality. I don't see it being a problem. Just having enough marshals and judges to do that. And I think it's just being very good stewards of the fishery. And I don't see a problem with bringing in 1 or 2 big ones. I think you should, and I think that's what makes Bassmaster what it is, and it's a great show. And if you're going to have fans there, which we hope to have fans there again, because Waddington gets a great turnout. Yes, fingers crossed. I think we should at least bring a couple fish in. But I mean, you're cutting down on bringing 3 fish a person. That's significant.
Yeah. And the worst part about it too is the heat of the summer. I am a huge advocate for having smallmouth derbies. I just don't like them in the middle of the summer, like July, August. I try to avoid them like the Black Plague. So it's like there's always a fish that dies. Every boat weighs in a dead fish usually in those tournaments, and it's terrible.
Yeah, I mean, I see what you're saying. I'd say I don't think we really have as much of a problem I've noticed on the Elite Series. I'm not seeing a lot of dead fish.
That's good.
I think it's a testament to what Bass does with their, fish care stuff, as well as the angler's knowledge. And I think a lot of guys have learned over the years, including myself, because I mean, I'm not perfect either. I've killed fish over the years, and it sucks. Like it hurts me. I don't like to do it for no reason. I mean, if you're going to eat fish, that's one thing. Because I mean, I will. I don't eat bass, but I eat perch and walleye and all that. But I think these guys do a really good job of taking care of the fish overall. That's not everybody. That's not 100%. But overall, I think they do a really good job.
Yep, I would agree. It seemed. I mean, Douglas, we were pretty proud to do 100% release rate. That was pretty sweet for the year.
That was good. That was really good.
Yeah. Granted, it's a little bit easier to keep them alive, but that was pretty awesome.
Yeah, that was a lot of deep fish being caught too. So, kudos to everybody for taking care of them.
I think another part to that, though, that time of year, the water's getting cooler. There's more oxygen in the water too, so those fish are able to be a little bit more hardy because they're not baking.
Yes,
right.
That's a huge factor in our tournament. Usually, the issue, like when we had that one 3 years ago, you and I fished, Andy.
Yeah.
There was quite a few more fish that were doing that floating kind of where you need to fizz. So like when me and Jeff fizzed other people's fish and drove them out to the break wall and stuff, I think we saved a lot of those fish. But I think that's the biggest issue we run into in the summer tournaments is people not fizzing them. Yeah. I think if you do that already, you're taking away that stressor. So even if the water's hot, they're that much less stressed that they have got that much more opportunity to live.
And throw some G juice or any type of live well additive you can just to really calm them down.
It does help. And ice is your best friend when the water gets warm.
Never a full bag at a time, though, because you'll shock them. Handfuls. At least I do handfuls.
Yeah, I kind of was on the same mindset, but there's a lot of those like really northern guys and Canadians that literally just like pack their whole live well with ice, and they almost never kill a fish. So I'm going to explore that a little bit more.
One of the coolest things I saw, and I learned from Dean Meckes, who was my boater for the St. Louis River Fed. Old Dean Meckes. He showed me you take like the sherbet cooler, like the ice cream sherbet.
I know what you're talking about.
Containers from there, and you freeze those, so you get like a big, like almost bowl-shaped block of ice.
There you go.
Put that in there, so it because it's bigger, it melts slower, and you're not throwing in a bunch of different ice cubes that melt faster. It melts slower, so that it stays colder for longer. And you only need to put in 1 or 2 a day.
That is good. Another thing I've done is just freeze water bottles without the labels. Just throw them in there.
Concept. Yeah.
Yep. So that does work. It's definitely better. You get a slower melt on those.
Yeah, and you're kind of like dual purpose with the frozen water bottles because you got the water bottles on top. Because isn't that what people do with pool noodles, right?
Yeah, like the pool noodle thing. Yep.
Yeah.
I think the pool noodles is kind of cool because it gives them like a protection. So when you're running over those rough waves or hit the pool noodle instead of the lid of your live well, especially when they're like half fizzed and floating, you're really taking care of them a little better. So it kind of keeps them down.
Yeah. And what do you have at the top of your lid? You've got the metal latch hanging underneath it. Bam, bam, bam. Yeah. It's just messing up those fish and tearing them up.
Yeah. 100%. Well, Andrew, you got anything left for Destin here?
Man, have fun in 2021.
Yeah, we're gonna.
I intend to. Thank you, buddy.
I look forward to after July. I'm gonna see if I can find some big tournaments for us to jump into on your way home.
Oh yes, I would really like. I was just looking at it. I was like, I would really like because Champlain's first. After Thousand Islands, if there's time, I want to go back up to Champlain, spend like a vacation or something up there, and then hit Cayuga and try to fish some of those places on my way back.
There's Douglas Erie in September.
Well, we're fishing out.
Just wanted to see what you guys say.
There's a side bet going, no net side bets.
Oh, people are actually going to do that?
No, I'm just saying between the core group here, we need a no net side bet.
Well, I totally agree, but you think these guys are going to do that?
I'll do it. I ain't afraid. I'll grab them.
Do you guys use a net, you and Mike?
Did Mike not use a net?
Yeah.
Not for every fish, for the bigger fish, yeah.
Well, yeah.
But not every, no.
I think the bunch are easier to grab than the smaller ones, like the 4-pounder. They can be a little tricky. When you get that 6, 6.5, 7, they just kind of, all you do is grab them by the belly and they come right up because they're just like,
Yeah, they're like, you got to think of like that fish as like an old timer, like a geezer, like an old geriatric fish. Like that fish is really old, and it's got like a big. Everybody wants to catch a 10-pounder in Florida, which is awesome, but they've got like 2 pulls in them, and then they're done. Like you got to think of those fish are old, dude. They're really old.
Like that 6-7 pound range is when they're like the freight trains.
Yes.
Yeah.
They're like that prime 12 to 15-year-old just meat monster.
Oh yes.
Yeah. Jeff and I used the net once that weekend after when we had 27 pounds. That was on a 6.5. We used the net and everything else.
Yeah, you guys got a real nice bag that day too.
We caught like I think it was 124 was our tally for the day.
That's incredible.
It was nuts.
I mean, that Douglas Derby ruined Buffalo next fall. There is, starting with Douglas Derby on the 18th, there's a big tournament every weekend after that till the end of October.
Yeah, I was kind of worried about that, honestly.
You got 18th, then you have the Safe Harbor Championship, which is the weekend after. Then the Fed is the 3rd. Then there is Empire Trail 2-dayer, 16th and 17th. Canadian Tire is 10th. And then who knows what will be after that.
The unfortunate circumstance.
And part of me is like, oh, do I want to fish the Canadian Tire? Just because I'm like, those fish are going to be so tough to catch by that point.
I'm going to go ride in Morgan's new ballistic.
Ooh, ballistic. That's cool.
Yeah, my buddy up north. Well, our buddy up north now.
Yeah,
he got he signed up with ballistic, so he's gonna have like the only ballistic north of the U.S. Canadian border,
north of Tennessee, really.
Like I think they're built in Idaho or somewhere.
They are. Yeah, they are.
Good grief. Shipping.
High altitude, those boats rip.
What is it? Yeah, I've heard they're really fast. There's one guy in the elites, Lee, who does run one. That's the only guy I know of that. That's the only person other than Morgan now that I know that has one.
Heck yeah.
What is crap? What's the other one? Bullet? Is Bullet the other?
Buddy
Yeah,
Gross.
really fast one.
I always get those two confused.
And ballistic.
It's
I
funny
get
though,
Ballistic and Bullet confused all the time.
and stuff. The only two boats you really see on like the Columbia River in Oregon are Phoenix now and
Yeah,
Phoenix and what?
Allison.
really.
See, I think I've seen one Allison. And that was when we were on Canisius.
They run them all over the place in Oregon because they're actually really sweet rough water boats.
Huh.
How fast and crazy they are, they maneuver really well.
I've seen a handful of Allisons over the years.
Those things fly.
Yeah.
It's much in the water at 80 miles an hour.
Yeah, a buddy of mine, he fishes a coing with a guy that had an Allison, and he was like, it was terrifying.
You literally sit on the floor of the boat, and it's like it looks like a Jetsons chair. What you're sitting in, it's like this space, like non-ergonomical seat that you're sitting on, and you're literally, when you're squatting, the term is like ass in the grass. Your ass is literally feeling every ripple on the water as you're running down the lake.
I will say,
You're like straight legged. You can feel the boat, just like if it's glass com, you can feel every little thing. It's a really weird feeling. And the boat weighs 800 pounds. So
I don't want that. I want to feel like I didn't get beat up all day when I get off the water.
And honestly, my buddy Sean, his dad has an Allison. It was one of the smoother riding boats I've ever been in.
Really?
Yeah. A quick little rabbit hole story. We fished a Wednesday nighter. I think it was the second tournament I ever fished, and he's just tying up. I was like, "Are we gonna go?" And he goes, "We got time." We passed every boat on the river before like the first big bend heading up towards Grand Island. I think we're doing 87 going up the river.
oh my God.
I think, and he only had a 200, like one of those old Mercury EFI racing motors, the ones with like the red and yellow and orange stripes on them.
Oh my God.
And I remember like we pulled up to our first stop, and he just like trimmed it all the way down and turned hard, like a 180 turn. I almost flew out of the side of the damn boat at like 45 miles an hour. I'm so sorry.
I think I still have to say the comfiest ride I've ever been in was Dean Meckis's 522D, his Ranger.
Yeah,
that's like big water special.
Oh yeah, air ride seats and everything. That was extremely comfortable.
I forgot he got that one because last time I saw him, he had like an older Ranger. I think it was just a 521.
He's got that, and I believe he has a Nitro for Florida. So he's got a different boat for Florida because I think he's in Okeechobee right now.
He is. Yeah, he was bringing his Ranger down there, so he must have just got like a cheaper one just to keep down there.
I'm not too sure. We'll have to reach out. We should get Dean on the podcast. That's what we should do.
That's a good idea.
Yeah.
Dean is quite a legend.
Oh yeah, he's the
If
man.
you hear some of his old tournament accomplishments, you'd be like, "Dang, that guy, he's done something. He has a really good career."
I think he told me 4 Redman wins on Cayuga, so I was like, all right, hell yeah.
I think he's had 2 on St. Lawrence.
Not surprised.
I think largemouth, when the largemouth was the thing, I think he won 2 on largemouth.
Wow. I learned a lot from him that day. That was fun. That was a fun tournament. 100%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If there's any advantage to a co-angler, the people you meet and the stuff you learn from them. If you're like if you're courteous to them and you pay attention and you're a really good co-angler, they will usually talk to you, and then afterwards you have a friendship.
Yeah, I mean, real quick. I mean, just while we're on the topic, let's go through real quick of like what, $40-$50 depending on how much you're running that day for gas. I usually offer to buy ice the night prior. Dean told me don't worry about ice that night prior. I was kind of confused why, and then I learned with the sherbet ice cream stuff. He's like, you can't get the ice at the gas station. I'm like, pretty sure gas stations have ice, but then I learned quickly why I didn't need those. But what else do you guys think? I mean, obviously not casting over lines or anything. I every tournament I've done as a co-angler, which is not many, but I've always asked before we even blast off, is like, if there's anything, boundary wise, let me know, because the last thing I want to do is, get in the way.
Yeah, that's excellent etiquette. And like you said, like $40-$50. The standard, I'm going to use this as a model. Like when FLW Tour still had co-anglers, the standard was $40 to $60, depending on how far you're running, that kind of stuff. Obviously, you don't have control of that, but if you're at Champlain, you're running the whole way to Ticonderoga, I mean, give the guy $50 or $60.
Yeah.
I mean, some guys will get mad if you give them $60, which is honestly absurd, but $40 to $60, like that is the standard.
Yeah.
If you really like the guy, sometimes people give you $100 or something crazy, but $40 to $60, that's standard. Like you said, I think it's important to kind of establish, like, all right, I don't want to get in your way here. I'm going to fish this area. You mind if I cast up this way? No, it's fine. But don't be casting in front of the guys. I mean, that's just poor etiquette. It makes co-anglers, have a bad name. It's just not good for the sport. I mean, you just don't want that. Like, these guys are paying a lot more money to fish in the front of the boat.
Yeah.
So, I mean, whether you're going to be the next Kevin Van Dam or whatever, wait your turn, dude. That's going to go a lot longer ways.
Yeah, that boater's got more money invested than you do. So, I mean,
we're all okay. I was going to say athletes. We're not all necessarily athletes, but we're all competitors.
Right.
And like, we all want to do well. And some guys are going to feel like, oh, he's not giving me anything to fish. Well, he's fishing his stuff, and you're fishing what's left.
All right.
You're a co-angler. I was a co-angler. That's going to go a lot longer way if you treat it as such.
Yeah.
I had a lot of success as a co-angler. And a lot of that was based on I never treated my guy poorly. I never casted ahead of him. I was always respectful, as you are. And guess what? You're going to make really good friends. You're going to have a good time, both of you, and you're going to have your chances, believe me. If you're a co-angler and you fish, you're going to have your chances.
Yeah.
You just have to be opportunistic.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, as a co-angler, I would 100% I'd rather not bring any rods and have an angler I can learn from and sit back and just take notes than go there and have somebody who I'm going to try to, compete with on the water, for fish. I feel like you're there to learn. I think that's one of the
learner's mindset, and that goes a long ways. Yeah. I've had a few co-anglers over the years in the opens that literally I just want to watch you fish. Like, you're in contention, you're doing well, or I just want to watch you fish.
Yeah. I think you hear stories about that, like guys who are in the top 10 in an open, and co-anglers show up with no rods, and they're like, I'm not going to take any fish away from you.
Yeah. And I mean, that's not – you don't have to do that. Like, don't get me wrong.
Right.
Really appreciate it. Like, something like that.
I think the only exception to that rule would be is if both of you are in the top 10.
Right.
Or inside the cut line, then obviously you both have something to fish for. But if you're in the top 10 as a pro and you draw somebody who didn't catch fish the day before, like, that's a personal decision on that person. I mean, personally, I would bring a rod, but if the guy's like, I'm on him, I would purposely not fish on the fish where he was casting to. Even if he told me to, I would not be trying to catch the same fish.
Like, if he's fishing a line of bushes or something, I'm going to go cast out into the flat or something completely different. Yeah.
I mean, you can still cast the bushes after he fished it because that's accepted. But what you're doing, that's also good. I think I had one co-angler ever make the cut. Unfortunately, I'm probably not the best boater to have. But it's not because I'm not giving you stuff to fish. It's mostly because just the way I fish a lot. Like, I'm only making a few casts, I'm gone kind of thing a lot of times. Or I'm sitting and making one cast. And I have to make that same cast to catch him. But I had a guy, he almost won the tournament. I think he finished second. And he was in the top 10. I had him the second day. I mean, I gave him every piece of water. I was like, we were fishing offshore, ledge stuff. And I gave him just as much stuff to fish. And he appreciated it, and he did well. But it goes both ways. A lot of co-anglers do the same thing, like we just said. Like, they'll sit down and let you fish when they don't have a chance or whatever.
Yeah, 100%. Heck yeah. Well, dude, we're gonna sign off here, but I think the last thing. Yeah, I mean, we're almost an hour and a half here. Yeah.
We just rambled on.
Yeah. But I think one thing we can sign off with is obviously your rookie season is over. You're looking forward to your next year in the Elite Series. But for the new up and comers for their first year on the Elites, I mean, we had Brian New on last night who will be on the Elite Series next year. For guys like him, what's your message to the guys coming in for their first year?
I mean, we touched upon a lot of the growing pain stuff, but I mean, just make the most of it. Enjoy every moment of it. I mean, Brian he's a very experienced guy too. He and I actually fished as a co-angler about the same time. So that's what he and I both, that's the route we took.
Mm-hmm.
And, there's a lot of guys that have had a lot of experience that are going to come in and do well. I guarantee it. So just, keep your mind, keep your grind, keep what you're doing, and just don't let it get too big for you and have fun. I mean, that's the biggest thing. Just enjoy every moment of it because it is literally the coolest job in the world. Like, it's a grind. Believe me, it is a grind. You have to put in a lot of hours. 100-hour weeks are pretty normal. But it is worth catching those 5 fish, in a day.
Yeah. 100%. I like it. Andy, you got anything left?
Nah, man, I'm
Tapped out. You're about to ready to go to bed. You're about to fall asleep halfway through.
Well, I think of something. I'll probably just end up calling you, and we'll talk 2 more hours. So,
yeah, I don't think we have much to sign off with tonight, Andy. I don't think we have any announcements or anything to really discuss. So I think we'll leave it there. We'll sign off with Destin.
Fair pause.
Fair pause. That is the motto for tonight.
I feel like something is going to live with me forever at this point.
I mean, I'm going to call you Bear Paws forever. So
it could be worse. You could be Magic Mike.
Yes.
He's going to hate us for that one.
I don't remember what I said, but he's like, "Did you say dick like D pics?" And he's like, "It's like a biggest thing."
I remember that. Yeah.
That was a interesting.
What D pics? I'm dying.
Long story, folks. If you're still listening right now, bravo to you. But yeah, long story. We're gonna sign off with that there tonight.
Magic Mike.
Thank you guys. Thank everyone for always supporting the show. And as always, thank you guys for watching and listening. We'll see you guys next time.
See you.